Today we are going to learn about one of the nursing issue. There are many different the nursing issues in palliative care. The wound management is one of the major nursing issue. We have seen different types of wounds in your settings, but in palliative care, we have seen only two types of wounds. One is pressure ulcer and the another one is fungating ulcer. Today, we are going to learn about pressure ulcer. So that this session will be taken by Sister Anna Rao. She is currently working as a nursing tutor. She is a BSc nurse and she is currently working as a nursing tutor in Sri G.H. Patel School and College of Nursing, Sri Krishna Hospital, Karmasad, Anand. And she did certificate course in 6-week certificate course with us. And now she is pursuing fellowship in palliative nursing from Institute of Palliative Medicine, Calicut. So welcome, Anna, sister, and over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, for warm welcome. Very glad to see you again. Good afternoon, all the other participants. It is great to have training in such a reputed institute. I was very much privileged. Regarding the topic, we have seen many patients with pressure sore and hello.
Sister Anna, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes. From my side, no, it was not coming full screen, so that's why. Okay. So after a short introduction, let us move to the main topic. First, we will recollect whatever we know. Okay. So before going into treatment part, let us see what do we mean by the pressure sore. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So we know that it is the injury to skin and tissue underneath the skin, and the injury is mainly caused by the unrelieved pressure that is caused due to any means. Okay, and why it is important in palliative care. Now the concept of palliative care itself depends on giving maximum comfort to the patient. Okay, and when patient is having any kind of trouble, he will not get the comfort. Okay, so as nurses and as caregivers, plus when we are training the caregivers, we should always see that the patient is in the center and we are giving maximum comfort to the patient. Okay, so we know that most of our patients, they tend to develop pressure sore very easily due to various reasons. Okay, so we should not forget the causes. We know everything, all the causes, but let's revise again. Next, ma'am. So mainly three causes. Okay, first is pressure. Okay, so when it is said that when the patient has any kind of pressure, okay, only for 6 hours, it starts with just short period of time. Okay, but it is very easy for the patient to develop pressure sore, and it takes short time to develop, but it takes very long time to heal. Okay, and it is also a major cause of discomfort. Another saying is also there that if the pressure is of 70 mm of Hg for more than 2 hours, that can cause tissue destruction and can lead to the pressure sore. Okay, so these two things we should keep in mind. Second reason is friction. So friction, how it can cause? So it is rubbing. Okay, friction is a kind of rubbing that causes abrasion to the stratum corneum layer of the skin. Okay, so whenever we are changing the clothes, changing bedding, okay, any slight rubbing can also cause a major problem. It may have small tear of the skin because of the patient's condition, but can lead into more trouble. And third one is the shear force. Okay, here the force is in the parallel to skin, but in opposite direction. See, for example, we are trying to give patient a propped up position. Okay, but because of that, the patient is sliding down. Okay, so these two are in opposite direction. Many times, patient is turning to one side, and we are trying to pull the bed sheet on the opposite direction. Okay, so any two opposite side forces will lead to the injury to the skin. Many times we have to give and take bedpan. Okay, so they are also similar problem. Removing wrinkles, okay, they are also opposite direction forces are also there. Okay, so friction and shear force, they are also a major cause of the bed sore. Next slide, please. Uh, Now, some of the risk factors. If there are plenty, I have mentioned a few here. Main risk factors related to palliative care patients. First is impaired sensory perception. Okay, so impaired sensory perception, here patient is not able to identify what is hurting him. Okay, so sometimes patient is not able to tell. The patient may be on various tubings where patient cannot speak. Okay, and cannot tell us that it is hurting, and we cannot remove the cause. Neither patient can remove on herself or himself. Okay, so sensory perception is one. Many times patient is having diabetes mellitus, for example. They also land up in plenty of problems. Okay, there also neuropathy creates problem. Okay, so this is one thing. Second thing is impaired physical mobility. Now, this we know, physical mobility, whenever it is impaired, patient is not able to do anything himself. So we need to take care of the patient. Altered level of consciousness. Here also, patient is unable to identify any problem and land up in problem. Fecal and urinary incontinence. This always keeps the bed linen wet. Okay, patient is also many times his own clothes are also wet, and always the environment around patient is humid. Okay, this will cause the skin to become very soft, and it is very much prone to the cracking and leading into major bed sore. Altered mental status, including delirium and dementia. There is always a state of confusion. Patient is not able to act in right way. Okay, uh, he doesn't pay any attention to himself, his care. Okay, and can be many other things. So in short, patient is not able to take self care and not able to act or decide that is desired for that particular uh, situation. Malnutrition, you know, that it gives a very big effort on the tissue regeneration. Okay, so whenever there is malnutrition, new tissues development is always impaired, and the patient who is getting emaciated can have a major problem of bed sore. Dehydration, patient is always having less body fluid, okay, which is all very essential for maintenance of normal tissue anatomy and physiology. So there a problem. Edema, anemia, hypoxia, hypotension, all these things also lead into major development of bed sore. Excessive body heat. Again, the dry skin, okay, so tend to crack. Uh, Also, it can cause excessive perspiration. So there will be a humid atmosphere. Okay, so there can be a risk factor. Advanced age also, because the mass is reduced, fat is reduced. Okay, patient is becoming bone and skin. Okay, and major bony prominences get to injure. Chronic medical conditions like diabetes, cardiovascular diseases. Okay, so circulation is impaired. Okay, there are many problems. Small arterioles and venules are not having proper anatomy and physiology, so creating a major issue. And there is a long list, but these are some of the major issues related to our palliative care patients. So always we need to see and identify the risk. Next, ma'am. Okay, so all these risk factors, okay, act on the areas of soft tissue overlying to bony prominence. Okay, so that will lead to the next stage. Pressure exceeds the normal capillary pressure. Okay, so small capillaries, they are very minute. Okay, and the pressure is extreme. So there will be occlusion and tearing. Okay, and there will be tissue perfusion will be reduced. Okay, and that will lead to ischemic necrosis and will develop the pressure sore. Okay, so just 5 steps, but if we prevent any or one step, okay, stop one step, and it can stop the process. So as nurses, we should be very careful in assessing the patient and stopping the sequence. So that will help the patient in great way. Next, ma'am. Fine. So we'll see the stages. Stage 1 is erythema. Okay, here there is just a non-blanchable patch of the skin. Okay, skin is still intact. Here you can see the picture also, both the drawing and the real picture of the patient. Okay, so local lesion you can see non-blanchable. Okay, and it is found generally on the bony prominence. There will be discoloration of skin, warmth, edema is found, pain also may be present. So this is indication of at-risk patients. Okay, so immediate attention should be paid to such patients. It involves only the epidermal layer of the skin. So this is first stage, generally, namely, it is erythema. Next stage is stage 2. Ma'am, next time. Okay, so here the injury is to the partial thickness of the skin. Okay, you will see blister formation. Okay, there may be loss of dermis. The same is shown in the picture also. It represents as a shallow open ulcer, and the color will be red or pink. Okay, uh, it will be generally without slough. There is damage to epidermis and dermis. Both the layers are involved. Okay, and ulcer will be referred to as a blister or abrasion. It will be painful because of the receptors. Okay, now receptors are open. Next slide, please. Third stage is denoting as full thickness skin. Okay, so here the fat will be visible. We can see in the figure. Okay, subcutaneous fat will be visible, but the bone, tendon, and muscle will not be exposed yet. Okay, so epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissues are involved, all three. And subcutaneous tissue has very poor blood supply. Okay, so this stage, if patient reaches, generally takes a long time. It is difficult to heal unless very meticulous care is given to the patient. And there are full chances that the necrosis of subcutaneous tissue will take place. Okay, next slide, please. Fourth stage is full thickness tissue loss. It is the deepest and extending into the muscle, tendon, or even bone will be seen. the figure down on the right corner, we can see that even the bone is visible. Okay, so breakdown of the supporting tissue is also seen. Okay, surrounding tissues are totally, you can see the edematous area. Okay, major tape also you can see. Okay, so that's what we will be discussing on the later slides. Next slide, please. Last is unstageable stage. So here the depth is not known. Why so? Because mainly the tissues will be covered by means of HR. Okay, so the different colors may found. Okay, slough will be there, dead tissues will be there. It may appear to us yellow or green or brown, or even the uh, slough HR will be seen. Okay, and there will be extensive tissue damage. Okay, and generally we need to remove it surgically. So management becomes very difficult. Next stage, please. Okay, so what can happen? Okay, patient should never develop any kind of complications. Okay, so first complication we can see is cellulitis, right? Inflammation of the soft tissue. So surrounding tissues will be inflamed. Okay, there may be secondary infection may take place. Okay, and if the infection goes under deep tissues, bone and even joints can also get infected, and the infected material microorganism can penetrate through the blood vessels and can reach to the whole body. Okay, so patient can end up in sepsis also. So caregivers aim what should be? It should be to relieve pressure and to prevent further complications. Okay, so these two things are very uh, important for us to take care. So now we will move forward to the care. These are headings, each one we will be discussing in detail. So care of skin, general hygienic care should be given. Changing of the position is there, wrinkle free bed should be given, avoid the shear and friction, regular inspection of the pressure point should be done, and there are many other points also. Okay, so skin care, if we see in detail, we pay much care to skin. Okay, so to prevent any kind of injury and leading to further infection. So what to do? Hygienic care. So thorough cleaning should be there of whole body. If the patient is taking care of himself, that is well and good. If not, then caregiver may be giving bed bath, right? So give attention to all the skin folds and uh, especially groin, popliteal area, underarm, between the digits, okay, under the breast, neck, skin folds. Many will be, there may be obese patient also. So such patients also should be taken care. Even the skin folds behind the ears, even the nasal passage, that also we need to take care. Mild soap can be used with warm water, and it should be thoroughly dried. Okay, uh, soap should not remain on the skin. Many times many of us have learned to apply the talcum powder and spirit when we give the back care or give sponge bath, and after that we need to give back care. But in palliative care, that is prohibited. Okay, we should not use any talcum powder. Why so? Because it tends to make the skin dry. Spirit also the same. It becomes the skin becomes very hard and dry also. Okay, so that is totally not allowed. Instead, we can use say any kind of moisturizer. We also have to see the economic condition of the patient. So simple uh, oil can be used, which is easily available at local market. Vaseline can be used. Liquid paraffin is also used. Okay, so keep the skin supple. That is very important. Next slide, please. So while turning the patient, we need to see that we avoid any kind of pulling of the bed sheets to prevent friction. Okay. Semi-Fowler's position is best for the patient. Many of times it is best for the patient. So patient can be elevated at the maximum angle of 30 degree, because if we try to increase more than that, then what happens? Patient will slide down. Okay, and he will tend to use elbows to maintain the position. Okay, to remain in the same position, sitting position. So there the elbows will get injured and we can see the bed sore, pressure sore develop there. So we should try to use soft pillows or cloth in between the joints like knees or under the ankle joint. We should never pull any object that is lying under the patient. It can be anything. Okay, so while turning the patient, always use draw sheet or bed sheet to turn on the side and place the patient comfortably. Here we can have the patient is given physiotherapy, recreational therapy, diversion therapy, and occupational therapy. All things are very good because the patient will be active, not only in his mind, but also physically. He will remain active through these things. So it is useful for the prevention. Next slide, please. Yes. We have always seen these two figures everywhere, right? So what are the pressure points when the patient is in the bed, and what are the patient pressure points when the patient is in the wheelchair? Okay, so when the patient is in the bed, we can see the red dots. Those are the pressure points in different positions. Okay, so when the patient is in a lying down position, ideally patient should be turned every 2 hourly in a day, and possibly in night, not to wake the patient, but at least once in night time, patient can be turned. And when the patient is in wheelchair, we can ask the patient or move the patient every 15 minutes. Very tedious job, but very important. Otherwise, patient will have lots of bed sores. Here also, we can see the various pressure points. Okay, so taking care of the all the pressure points is very, very important. Yes, ma'am. Next. So what to do? Gentle massage should be done, but too much of pressure and uh, rubbing on the joints, okay, on the bony prominences should be avoided, because it will cause more tissue damage rather than doing good. So it should not be done. Very vigorous massage should not be given. Massage always helps in giving good blood circulation to the tissues. So gentle massage is better. Never massage on pressure sore. This should always be remembered. Passive stretching of each joint at least 10 times in a day. Okay, so each joint 10 times. Okay, twice in a day, morning and evening is good. Uh, Extension, flexion, okay, and whatever movements are possible, because some of the conditions may not allow all the movements. So whatever movements are available for the patient, possible for the patient, should be done. This will help in good patient can be in movable condition. Not only that, but it will also prevent any kind of atrophy of the muscles, contracture, and even deep vein thrombosis also can be prevented. Patients position whenever we are changing, use of soft pillows, small pillows, or soft clothes. Certain materials are also available in the market that can also be used, but in PC we always see the patient's economic condition. So depending on that, whatever is available at home, we can teach the patient. Uh, Padding of bony prominences for protection is also good. I have learned a new thing regarding, because we have studied about the various use of various rings in the taking care of, say for example, elbow or ankle, like that. But I learned a new thing, that the ring type structure, many times it causes venous stasis. So it should be prevented. I mean, should not be used. So we always learn as the time passes. So whatever comes new, we should be knowing. Next slide, please. Yes, so all these things are available in the market, but the whatever he's shown here, every one of us have seen. The various types of mattresses and beds are available that will be useful in the hospital care. And for home-based care, air pressure mattress is available at cheaper rate. Many of the things are supplied by NGOs also at lower uh, rent, either on rent, or sometimes donated materials are also given for the use. So these services can be used, and we can involve the social workers in the getting, knowing the economic condition and all of the patient, so the team can manage, and so that the patient is getting maximum benefit. But it is not the final solution. Many times we put the patient on the air mattress and forget about taking care of the patient, okay, moving and all those things. So it should not happen. Care should continue. Okay, along with the mattress, we should also be giving enough care. Many times when we are using this air mattress or water mattress, there are mechanical problems also arise. Many times the pockets are leaking, water is leaking, and patient is landing up into the problem. So forgetting the patient on air mattress is never a good idea. Even there is another thing available, like a sponge which looks like egg crate. We all have seen how the egg crate looks. Okay, and that sponge can be spread over the regular mattress, and patient can be placed over that. That is also a very good material that can be used. I could not get the picture of it, but when I was working in cardiac hospital, we were using for that. If you fold it, it is just just like blanket. Okay, but the shape of the upper surface will be like egg crate. So, and washable also, we can wash it at home and dry it very easily. So that was also very good. All this will help to spread patient's weight equally, and it will prevent the sore to develop. Thank you. So next slide, please. Now, in spite of all these preventive aspects, if the pressure sore develops, then what to do? Okay, so with proper treatment, and if we give take care of the other pressure points, wherever the pressure sore is already developed, there we have to do regular dressing, but the remaining pressure points should be continued giving regular care. Okay, so that in those points there is no pressure sore develop. So it will depend on the general health and diet of the patient. uh, Relieving of pressure on the sore is also important, otherwise it will continue to develop, even go into deeper tissues, and there can be the necrosis can take place and further problems can take place. And careful cleaning and dressing of the sore, if we do these three things, then the pressure sores can heal. Next please. So how to clean? First stage pressure sores can be cleaned with mild soap and water. Okay, but in rest of the sores, it should be cleaned with uh, saline solution. Okay, so saline solution we know how to prepare, right? In palliative care, we have learned that boil 1 liter of water, add 2 teaspoons, or if 1 glass of water is taken, 1 pinch of salt, and boil it nicely, okay, and use it. So normal saline can be used for cleaning and irrigation of the wound. uh, and never use any hydrogen peroxide or betadine, because the uh, more harm to the tissues will be done rather than uh, just a second
170 માં મળો.
rather than good. Okay, so sorry for the disturbance, because my office is first, so people come for inquiry first to my office, that's why a bit problem. Okay, so while cleaning, we should try to remove the dead tissues, pus, and all those things. That the medicine which we want to apply, okay, generally what we apply is the Vaseline. Okay, so that will reach the target tissue. Okay, so all the dead tissue and pus should be removed from the wound, and then the fresh dressing should be applied. While dressing, we should also see that we don't rub it vigorously, otherwise it will damage the developing granulation tissues. Okay, so that also should be taken care of. And slight bleeding is okay, but it should not be too much, because that also a problem. So taking care in that way is important. Generally, we apply the moist dressing using Vaseline. Okay, Vaseline has a great healing power, and uh, it does a good job. And then we can place enough amount of gauze piece and then tie. If it is not available, many times patient is so poor that the gauze is not a affordable thing. So in such cases, they can use the clothes which are sterilized, teach them how to sterilize at home. Okay, and those small piece clothes can be used. Other things like how, if the bleeding is there, and dark color clothes should be used and all, that should also be taught to the patient. Many times at local places, aloe vera pulp is used. Aloe vera leaves we have seen. So remove the superficial layer on both the side, and the pulp which we get can be placed over the bed sore, and it also has a good healing power. It soaks all the exudate that is coming out and helps in healing. Raw papaya leaves are also used, and raw papaya is also used at local uh, level. Uh, and not to forget that all these procedures are very painful for the patient. Okay, so painkiller drugs should be given before the procedure. Generally, if the time of the painkiller drug is in the morning, then or at the later stage we can do after 1 hour or so. Or if the patient is getting, say for example, morphine is he is taking, so 4 hourly morphine will be there. So either schedule the time of dressing in that way, or extra dose can be given just before 30 minutes to 1 hour, so that patient is having least pain during dressing procedure. Next slide, please. Second very important thing is nutrition. Lot many things are there in nutrition. Healthy diet is very important, and for the development of good tissues, okay, healthy tissues, always protein intake is must. So good amount of protein is essential, along with the vitamin C is very important. Vitamin A and E are also good. Even zinc is very good for the healthy tissues to grow. So these vitamins uh, we should see that the patient takes. So we should always teach what are the sources available at local level, like beans, nuts, whole grains, dairy products, whatever patient is affording. Garlic and spinach, all things are very good for the patients to eat. It helps in many things, not just the healing of the wound, but other things also. Adequate hydration is very important. Skin care is always related with the adequate water intake, and our patients many times they, because the mouth taste also changes, so many times they are not taking enough water and food, but it should be seen that he at least takes 8 to 10 glasses of water, including he can add juices also per day, and it will help greatly, especially in hot weather like India. Quitting smoking comes under lifestyle changes, very difficult for many patients, but many times they take even after taking treatment also, even though they are under treatment, they continue smoking, can't leave the habit. But it should always be told to patient, explain to patient why it should be stopped. Then I think patients can understand and they can stop it. It's very difficult, we also know, but how the smoking affects, because it hinders healing, causes tiny vessels to constrict and become narrow. Okay, so that will limit the blood flow and it will hamper the healing of the bed sore. Exercises are very good, they improve circulation. Okay, and plus it will prevent contractures in case of joint involvement is there in the bed sore. So these things are very important. Next slide, please. Incontinence, it can be urine incontinence or the stool incontinence. We should see that whatever measures we can use to, I mean, stoppage, or we prevent making the bed linen dry, that is very important. So many times if patient is affordable, diapers can be used, but many patients are not so affordable, so there we can use soft clothes. A good amount of padding of soft clothes can be made, so that is very absorbent also, because diapers will I mean, not only the cost, but there is lot of perspiration is seen, and then patient develops diaper rashes also. So that should be dealt with. If urine incontinence is there, we can even think of doing catheterization, uh, so that uh, uh, bed linen can be kept dry as far as possible. Educating of caregiver is very important in this, because for a long period of time, it becomes very, very difficult to maintain the patient's, I mean, dryness and all sorts of things, creates lots of problems, you know. Uh, Now, surgical repair is also there, that if the patient is in hospital and deep injury is there, deep pressure sore is there, then tissue flaps are also put. So there, plastic surgery may also be done. So we, as nurses, we have to see the pre and post operative care. Okay, so that responsibility will always be there. There are many new techniques also, like hyperbaric oxygen. So here the oxygen is given at 3 times higher than normal atmospheric oxygen. So it helps patients, blood vessels are always full of oxygen, and it helps in the uh, tissue regeneration. And there is topical use of human growth factors that also helps in regenerating new tissues faster. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's summarize. We, as nurse, what to do? Okay, so assess the patient for all the risk factors that are possible. Okay, so we know the Braden scale that can be used. Okay, so predisposing factors for the bedsore development is very essential. Okay, skin condition at least twice a day should be checked. Inspect each pressure, so pressure site should be inspected. How much changes is taking place, that also should be checked. Palpate the skin for any increased warmth. Next, please. Any dry skin or moist skin, break in skin, evaluate the level of mobility. All these things are there in the Braden scale. So that should be done. Evaluate circulatory status, assess neurovascular status, determine presence of any kind of incontinence, evaluate nutritional and hydration status, note other health problems along with the bed, so what patient is having, and never forget to assess pain. That is very essential. Next slide, please. Here it is given the Braden scale. Uh, we have to tick mark and count the total score. Okay, severe risk is less than 9, high risk 10 to 12, moderate risk is, sorry, it should be less risk. Okay, and I mean, moderate risk is 13 to 14, and mild risk is 15 to 18. So scoring is very important. Next slide, please. Interventions. Okay, assess pressure points and provide pressure redistribution surface wherever possible in whatever way. We just saw it. Patient's incontinence, what to do. Next, please. Avoiding friction and shear. This also we saw in detail. So these are just take home points are listed. Next, please. Interventions for patient with decreased activity and mobility, what to do. Turning schedule, position changing, how to do, what to do. And with poor nutrition, what we need to do. Okay, ma'am. Next. Okay, so we need to evaluate the progress every 4 to 6 days. How much, whatever we are doing, whatever care we are giving, how much is the progress? Okay, whether patient is improving or deteriorating. Measurements can be done with a marker or with a transparent uh, plates are available. On that we can mark, or we can take photograph and find out the position of the patient where our care stands. Assist the physician or surgeon in debridement and all the nursing responsibility is there. educate patient and family regarding the risk factors, because ultimately patients' relatives will be taking care of the patients. So we should always teach them, educate them. That is the best. Then patient can stay at home and can be away from the bed source, or without bed source, or have developed, then they can heal. And as nurses, never to forget documentation. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Anna, for the presentation. So if anybody have any doubts, please ask. Either you can chat or speak.
I hope I finished in time, or
Yes, yes. Anybody? Any questions? One chat question, Anna, how to apply papaya over the ulcer?
again, the skin can be removed, and the soft, tender papaya from inside, no, can be just like aloe vera, how we are using that, can be thin layer. Generally, they make. I have also not seen just the. I have heard it that they use. So thin layer they apply.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me a chance. And ma'am, please do add any points from your side. I would request.
Okay. So we have learned many things today. So definition, pathophysiology. So one more chat. Another modern type of pressure dressing. Could you please explain more about that? I don't understand about.
You can unmute from your end and speak. Rosemary, yeah, here.
Hi,
I mean,
madam. Hello.
Yes, yes, you can.
Hi, madam. Can you just share with us any type of modern dressing for pressure ulcer?
There are many different types of dressings are available. Foam dressings are available, and that many that if there is a that bad smell, like that there is a charcoal type dressings are available. But the thing is, these that the dressings are too expensive. We can think about whether we our patients are affordable or not. So if they are affordable, we can tell them you can buy it and apply. So otherwise, what we can do, what in palliative care, so we don't use these type of dressings. So we usually that only formed the Gamgee pad. So as Sister Anna said, if the Gamgee pad is not available at their home, we train them was that they have it. If they can take a order that dhotis, cotton dressing dhotis or cotton pieces, and make it cut short in square form, and then they can steam it and they can use it that as a dressing material. So that is what we teach in palliative care. So, is there any experience? What about others? Do you have any other experience on other dressings? Many types. I don't know. I don't have any experience about the form dressings and all. So,
Ma'am, I had, but it is again, as you said, it is very expensive. One dressing named Raleigh Hill. I forgot the company's name, pharmaceutical company's name, but there also a square piece comes, 10 by 10. Then according to area, we have to cut and use. So with the osmotic uh, this thing, no, it will collect all the exudates and make the as we know, the wound heals from down to up, right? So in the initial period we require more amount of the material, but as the wound gets healed, it becomes smaller, and so thing. But all those things are very expensive. I know because my mother was there. She had developed one uh, bad joint ulcer. So then, but it has in hospitals, no, they try. One very good thing is the use cleaning with Usol. That helps a lot. So Usol is that solution is made. Usol is in 100 ml of sterile water, 1.25 gram of sodium hypochlorite and 1.25 gram of boric acid powder. These two things are mixed and made nicely solution and make the patient to dip the part in it. So it will remove all the dead tissue and everything. So cleaning becomes very easy, and then apply the Vaseline goes like that. That's what.
So new experience for me also, the Usol. And the next question is foul smelling dress. We can use charcoal powder and apply wound after clean. If maggots is present, what we can do? So answer is also there. If there is a foul smell there, the charcoal is a good agent for absorption of bad smell. And charcoal dressing is also available. And Sister Anna, if you want, you can add some.
I have not seen the charcoal powder, how it is applied like that. Here what we do is the Metrogel, what you taught, the same thing, Metrogel tablets, crushing and sprinkling powder over that.
Here the charcoal pieces are locally available, no? So that pieces, you can take 1 or 2 pieces and keep under of the bed or under the bed. That can absorb the bad
That
smell.
absorption is there,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
But directly can we apply on, the sterile charcoal powder is available. Is that so? I have not seen.
I don't have any experience, but I heard. But charcoal dressings are available. I have experience on that.
Can I share experience? Hello?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, for charcoal dressing, normally what we did is after we clean the dressing, after we remove all the slough there, so we have to put a gauze because we cannot put direct charcoal powder on the wound itself. So what we should do is we put the gauze, and then after that only you sprinkle the charcoal powder. After we crush it, normally we will take about 2 tablets of charcoal, and then we just sprinkle on the top of the gauze, just a very thin gauze. After that only we cover with another gauze for dressing.
Okay, thank you. If there is a maggots there, what we can do? The next question. So we have a session on fungating ulcer next week. That time we will discuss more about that. But now Sister Anna, if you want, you can.
Yes, for maggot, we can dip a piece of gauze in turpentine and keep near the wound. Okay, so the maggots, they will be deprived of oxygen. They will come out, and we can take out one by one. We should not follow the maggots inside the wound, otherwise we will injure the patient. So with thumb forceps, we can pick up the maggots.
So one more chat here. Sometimes we use thick or thin deodorant patch, hydrocolloid dressings. There are many types of hydrocolloid dressings are available. So like Sister Anna said, that once you apply the hydrocolloid dressings, that keep for 7 days. That is the main instructions on that.
Yeah.
So I don't have many more experience on that, but I have one or two patients I had an experience with the hydrocolloid dressings.
Yes, depends on the patient how much to keep, because sometimes they used to change 3 days like that, depending on the condition of the wound they decide. All those, I mean, I call it fancy things in the hospital, everything, I mean, they try to do at home when the patient is there, only with minimal things, whatever is there, we can.
So I just, before moving to the case presentation, I just summarized today's session. So we have learned many things today. Definition, pathophysiology, risk factors, stages, and all. So we have to, one thing you have to keep in mind is pressure sore can occur anywhere on body. So it depends on the patient position. And the stages also, there are 5 stages. The first stage is non-blanchable erythema. The management is to prevent further pressure on that area. The second stage is dermis layer will be breakdown. There is no slough is present, only that red color, the skin loss is there. So that time you can clean with normal saline, homemade saline. If you you can teach the patients how to make a homemade saline, and they can use a saline for cleaning. No antibiotic is needed for that wound. The third stage is the thickness, partial thickness, subcutaneous layer will be affected. So sometimes slough will be there. You can clean with normal saline and apply metronidazole powder on that. So that will prevent, control the infection, anaerobic bacterial infection. So you can apply on that. And the fourth stage is also it will be affecting the bone, muscle and tendon. So that time the management will be the same, and you can refer the patient for the surgeon and may take a consultation whether the patient is able to take any skin grafting procedure or not. So you can refer the patient if the health condition is okay. Okay, then you can take a consultation from the surgeon. And the fifth stage is unstageable. So if there is a black necrotic tissue on the top of the wound, we can't assess the layer, how much layer is affected. So that time when we document that stages, you can document as a unstageable wound. So once you can remove the slough, then only you have to find out whether the wound is how much layer is affected. Okay, so the one negative pressure wound therapy is also available now, but I don't have any experience on that special machine, but our surgeon was doing that negative pressure therapy with the help of the suction apparatus. So that will be helpful for improving the blood circulation and removing the exudate from the wound. And if you maybe anybody may, I think you have the same experience. Someone have experience on the negative pressure therapy. And so here is the development of contract is one of the major part in palliative care. When here this patient, the one of, if we see on one bed-bound patient, definitely our nurses are responsible to teach the patients how to prevent the pressure sore and how to take care of the patient at their home. So we should not blame the caregivers. So they have more responsibilities, and they we don't know, they are undergone many problems in their home. So when the patients develop pressure sore, so maybe because of their problems, maybe they don't get adequate time to take care of that patient. So instead of we blame the patients, we can make a contract. Instead of you usually instruct the patients, you should do this, you should do that. So instead of using you can start to use we can see what we can do together is. So that time they can feel more comfortable. Okay, somebody is behind them to help them. So that feeling in their mind come and they will start care for the patient. Okay, our idea behind that is with the help of the caregivers to take care of the patient. Okay, and we know pressure sore, the prevention is better than cure. So one small tip, uh, pressure sore prevention, skin. The first yes could be supporting surface. So make sure that the patient has that a good supporting surface like air mattress or water mattresses. And the second S is skin inspection. Or whenever you change the position, you have to special attention for that particular bony areas. If there is a color change there, you can change, prevent further pressure on that area. The third one is K. K is keep moving. Every 2 hours you have to change the position. Okay. The I is incontinence or moisture control. If there is a wet, so on moisture is one of the cause of pressure ulcer. So if there is a wet there, they have to change the linen as soon as possible. And the N is nutrition. So they have to maintain good nutrition, especially protein intake and hydration. That is the way we have to that prevent the pressure sore. So you have to keep in mind skin, double S, KIN. Okay. So we can move on to the case presentation. Sunaina Naomi is presenting.
Sunaina, can you unmute from your end and speak? Sunaina, can you hear us? Sunaina?
Sunaina, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Hi,
Okay.
ma'am. There was disturbance.
Hello. We can't hear
Yes.
you. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah. We can hear you.
My name is Sunaina Naomi Gill. I'm working as a staff nurse in Jan Seva Hospital. And the patient which I am going to discuss today about is 60-year-old lady who was diagnosed with cerebrovascular accident. When she came to us, she was unconscious and she had hyperglycemia and she was having hypertension and she developed a bed sore on the left hip side, which was on stage 2. Previously, when she was admitted previously here, she was brought to the casualty at about 12:10 a.m. in the night, and she was having breathlessness, excessive sweating. Her BP was 180 by 100, and she was having hyperglycemia 210. Her GCS was E2V2M3. Overall score was 7, which was not good. And after the investigation, she was diagnosed that she is having cerebrovascular accident. And poor prognosis was explained to her family members by the doctor. She stayed admitted in her hospital for 15 days, not 5 days. She was here for 15 days. And after she got discharged, she was advised to come for the follow-up care after 15 days. The examination which we did on her to diagnose her issues were physical examination to check her GCS, and her history collection was taken as she was a known case of hypertension, and her CBC was done, BTCT, RFT, LFT, PTINR, urine complete, and MRI scan was done for her. Next, treatment. When she got discharged from the hospital after getting treatment for 15 days, she was on medication and she was on tablets. Tablet citicolin P was given BD, tablet lesuride 25 mg TDS, tablet Pento DSR, OD it was given, tablet telmikind H80 mg it was given BD, tablet Henson XT it was given HS, and tablet Eptoin 300 mg HS. As she was unconscious, she was paralyzed. We had given her Ryle's tube, so all the medications were given by the Ryle's tube to her. Next slide. Psychosocial aspect. She was a widow. She did not had her own kids, but she adopted 2 girls, and she got them educated and got them married, and now she was all alone, staying all alone in her house. Nobody was there to take care of her. The day she got admitted with CVA, her neighbor brought her to the hospital, and after that only her daughters, both the daughters came. And when she was discharged, her elder daughter took her home, but as she was married, she could not take care of her mother properly. So she developed bed sore, and she came to us on June 6th, 2019 to the hospital with bed sore. Next, medication. It was like not all the medications, like we had advised to put air mattress for her, keeping the wound clean, debridement of tissues were done, normal saline and betadine solution were used for cleaning the wounds, deoderm gauze, it was used for her. Positioning was done every 2 hourly since she was unable to move by herself. So every 2 hourly positioning was done, and dressing was changed. Not BD, it was changed after 5 days, not BD. Same treatment continued for the CVA. Main concern is like how we can manage care for the patient, as her elder daughter took her home, but since she was busy with her own family and she did not care for her, what should be done to fulfill nutritional needs of the patient? No one came forward from the family to pay the bills, as she had 2 daughters, but both of them were quarreling upon paying the bills. Next slide, please. The lady, she died on July 10th. Her bed sore was taken care when she was in the hospital, but after her death, like when she was declared dead, at that time we saw a bed sore on stage 3 on her back, same place. Discussion point for today is how we can help such patients who are unable to pay for their bills. When the family members are not concerned, what can be done to prevent bed sores? Thank you.
Thank you, Sunaina, for the presentation. So if anybody need any more clarification regarding this patient story, please ask.
Sister Regina, can you unmute and speak?
Okay, good morning. So I just want to comment on the first discussion points, which says how can we help such patients who are for their bills? So unit, we actually do not have uh, an NGO or something put in place to help our patients financially. So what we usually do is that when we get patients who are financially in need and they need our support, within my unit, the palliative care unit, we contribute among ourselves. And then with the little amounts that each of us will get, we put it together and then we help the patients get their drugs and then pay their bills, do their lab investigations and all other things. And then also sometimes we have another unit we call the social welfare. So most of the times when we are able to contact them, they come and then they assess the patient's condition and then their abilities. And then most of the times they let them go without settling the bill. So the social welfare team will take care of their bills, their medications, and all other things that they need to have. So yeah, that is what we do. And then if the patient is on health insurance, then the insurance would sometimes cover a part of their bill, mostly not all, but it covers a part of their bill. And then the remaining bill, sometimes we take it upon ourselves, like I said before, to help the patients get the best of care that they are supposed to get. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Regina. So, Sister Anna?
In our hospital also, we have that policy that sometimes the management itself will reduce a bit the bill, and they put up a lot of uh, advertisement inside the circle of the hospital employees, and many of us donate. We also have, regarding one patient, suppose one patient is very poor and he has come for, even for our very poor heart patients who require surgery, for them also it is done, that they will put up uh, leaflets at different places in the hospital, or phone to particular donors who are doing such charity work and gather the money. Plus, we have other mechanism, like those employees who want to contribute amount regularly. They have either give cash to a person designated for that, or they get their pay, scale cut from directly and put in the uh, account of for such poor patients. So such mechanism is there in our hospital. So that's how poor patients are taken care of. We have our all the OPD patients. We don't charge anything, no consultation fees for regular patients. And bed also, almost all the beds are free. We have another unit where all the paid patients stay, and the amount which is uh, got from that uh, is spent for the poor patients. So that service is available in our hospital. Government do pay in some of the schemes. In government schemes, they pay to hospital. So such schemes are also run in our hospital.
Any other comment on this? Here we don't have such experience, so we have treat the patient as a free of cost. So whenever the patient comes here, we will take care of them as a free of cost. So we don't have a similar experience like this. So the first thing, as we discussed earlier, we can seek help from NGO and start a group, that palliative care group within the hospital, within that staff members, and collect some monies, and then you can that give this help these type of patients. So not regularly these type of patients comes, but whenever these type of patients comes, we will take that money for help them. And the second question, when the family members are not concerned, what can be done to prevent bed sore? So I would like to hear from the participant side. What will we do if the caregivers are not willing to take care of this type patient? What will we do? Sister Anna, over to you.
We can find out what are the reasons. There are sometimes some pity reasons are there. So sometimes, I mean, human relationships are such that it becomes very difficult. So I identify, I mean, find out the reasons why, what is the problem, where is the problem. So we can try to, I mean, economical problem is there, or family relations are the problem, then I don't think we can help. Counseling can be done.
Any other points? Can't we get any help for CA patients from government, like DOTS? I think government is given the cancer pension for that's for cancer patients, and disability pension also there. This patient is CV, you know, this patient is eligible for disability pension. So
For cancer, some of the government schemes are there, like MA. That's what they do when they are admitted here. I mean,
yeah.
for procedure, chemotherapy or radiation therapy, the grant is given directly to the hospital. Certain category people. MA card is given to the person. MAA. I've forgotten the full form. Sorry.
So there are many chats. Explore other support systems such as church members, charity institutions, and elderly home help. Need to counsel the family members. Educate family members can be consulted and taught how to do the dressings and all. So all are correct. So here we have to find out the cause. So exploration of the problem. So why they are reluctant to take care of her mother. So we have to identify the cause of the cause, and based on the cause we have to move on. So if they sometimes, my experience, sometimes they're afraid of doing dressings. If the dressings are there, they are not willing to take care of. So we just listen their problems. So the answer will be, so I don't know how to take care of that wound. So that's why we keep the patient in the hospital. So what will be, so how will we manage that time? So the exploration of problem is the main part. We have learned 2 communication class last 2 weeks. So we know how to communicate with the patient and the caregivers. We need to explore the problems, and then we can manage. Okay, so if they have any difficulty on wound dressings, what we do here is we can take the patient for 1 or 2 patient. We are admitting that patient in the hospital with the caregivers, and our nurses are teaching how to take care of the wound. So 1 or 2 days they will be observing with our nurses, and gradually they are involving the dressings, and finally when they learn after when they are able to do the dressings, we discharge and we can follow through the home care. So we can do it, so same follow up will be there on home care. So that is why we manage here. So same problem, I think same problem is there. Maybe financial problem is there. We don't know how that relationship between the mother and the daughters. So we need to identify. Any other comment? I think when the patient come to the hospital, the pressure sore is second stage. So when she died, the wound was third stage. Is it correct or?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So there are few more other names on pressure ulcer. One is bed sore, and the one another name is HAPU, hospital acquired pressure ulcer. So when the patients come to the hospital, there is no pressure ulcer, but after that the patient develop pressure sore within the hospital. So that is because of poor nursing care. So we need to give us good attention on that type of patient. Okay, bed-bound patients we know. So that is the one name, and the one new name is PSM wound, pressure shear microenvironment wound. So pressure is one of the cause. Shear is another cause. Microenvironment, when the patient lying on the bed, there is a connection between the body and the skin. So our environment is a contributing factor. So that is why we call it as a PSM wound, pressure shear microenvironment wound. So here what I explain here is HAPU. So we need to understand that when the patient come to the hospital, so we can give a special attention for this type of patients. Otherwise, the patients develop pressures within the hospital, that is affecting the nurses because of the poor nursing care. So here also, when the patients come to the hospital, second stage, died when she was died, third stage. So we have to take good care within the hospital. What about others? Anybody add any point on that?
It is said that when the patient in the hospital develops pressure, or it is the nurse who is responsible. So, a nursing point of view, it should never happen. Like fall of patient from the bed is nurse's responsibility. Everything will come on nurse's head only,
Yeah.
because we are always there for the patient. So
Go to
assessment of the risk factors is important.
excuse me.
Yeah, you can. Sunaina.
She was discharged when she was having stage 2 bed sore. She got treated for that and she got discharged. After going home, when she came back, like on July 10th, when she was declared dead, she was brought back to the hospital since she was not moving, not breathing, like she was dead. When she was brought there, that time the nurses noticed that the same place her bed sore was there, and it was in the stage 3. Like it was not in the hospital. After going home, they did not take care of her.
Okay, okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Did you talk to the caregivers, daughters, regarding
Yes,
this?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We had a talk with both the daughters, and we asked them what is the issue. Since the daughter, she was adopted, she never felt the love, same love like her real mother. And when she took her home, since she was married, she had a baby boy. She was busy with her kid. Her mother-in-law was there. Her mother-in-law was also sick. So she was really very busy with her own works and family issues that she could not give attention to her mother.
Okay. That is one daughter. What about another one?
Other one didn't wanted to take her home.
Okay.
She clearly refused that I cannot take care. Let the other one, let my elder sister take her. I cannot take her home.
Why she is reluctant to take care?
Ma'am, that she said I cannot take care of her. I'm busy with my own work. She was working in some company, and her husband also is working somewhere in company. So she said, I am not at home. Nobody will be at home. I cannot take care of her, and my in-laws will not allow me, she said.
Okay.
Both the daughters had family issues. So that's what I wanted to ask. Like, if it is like that, how can we prevent such patients having bed sores?
Uh, anybody? Any comments? The family members are totally reluctant to take care of these patients. How will we manage?
Very difficult and crucial issue. Many times it happens. Sometimes we find good Samaritans, good neighbors. They are helpful in some ways. But all the time to stay with the patient is a real difficulty. And patient also, we can't keep the patient always in the hospital. So a real issue.
So, like said Anna, we have a lot of volunteers here. So you can try to involve the volunteers, the local volunteers, and convince them if the maybe community volunteers are good. So if the community volunteers are willing to take care of this patient, every maybe 3 times a day they can go there and change the position. You can give a water bed or air bed for this type of patients. And then you can give instruction to the volunteers or neighbors. If the neighbors are good, they will take care of this type of patient. Okay, we have a lot of experience here. So in the parents and sometimes the parents are not take care of the children's, like the bedbound patient, and sometimes the children's are not take care of the parents. So both way, what we do here is we try to involve the community volunteers and inform to the panchayat member. With the help of the panchayat member, we will take care of this patient. this type of patients. That is why we manage this type of patient in their home. Otherwise, we keep the patient in the hospital.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for explaining.
If there is no more questions, we can wind up here. So we, Sister Anna, thank you for the excellent presentation and interaction. So thank you all for the interaction, and thank you, Sister Sunaina, for the patient story. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sister Anna, and thank you, Sister Sunayana. So I request all the participants to stay for a while. We need to talk to you. Sister Anna, you can leave now. Thank you so much, ma'am.